I asked myself that question the night I crossed back into Oklahoma. The highway stretched out dark and endless, my headlights cutting through the nothing, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. About us. About all the ways I'd managed to break something beautiful. 5 years. That's how long I'd been gone. Long. 5 years since I'd seen the Tulsa skyline rising out of the plains like a promise I couldn't keep. 5 years since I'd walked away from the only woman who ever made me want to be better than I was. The radio crackled with some old country song about regret and whiskey and roads that never end. I turned it off. Didn't need the reminder. I had enough of that riding shotgun in my chest, pressing against my ribs like a second heartbeat. My name's Cody Mercer, 34 years old, former PBR champion, current nobody trying to scratch his way back to something that probably don't exist anymore. The doctors told me I'd never ride again. The therapist told me I needed to find a new purpose. My ex-wife told me to go to hell. I listened to all of them. And then I got back on the bull anyway. The truck rattled over a pothole, and I felt it in my left shoulder. The one that got rebuilt twice. The one that still wakes me up at 3 in the morning with a pain so sharp it takes my breath away. The doctors weren't wrong about that part. They just didn't understand that some things are worse than pain. Like regret. Like loneliness. Like knowing you threw away the best thing that ever happened to you because you were too damn scared to hold on to it. I pulled off at a gas station outside Sapulpa, the kind of place that smells like diesel and burnt coffee at 2 in the morning. The kind of place where the attendant doesn't look up from his phone and the fluorescent lights make everything look sick and yellow. Filled up the tank, bought a pack of gum I didn't want, stared at my reflection in the dark window and wondered what the hell I was doing. Coming home. That's what I was doing. Coming home to prove I wasn't finished. Coming home to ride bulls again at the Tulsa Classic like I'd done a dozen times before everything went wrong. Coming home to face everything I'd been running from, including her, Sarah Jane Mercer. Well, Sarah Jane Cooper now, I reckoned. She'd probably gone back to her maiden name after the divorce. Couldn't blame her for that. I'd left her with nothing but a signature on some legal papers and a whole lot of broken promises that I'd never have the chance to keep. I remembered the day I signed those papers, sitting in a lawyer's office in Dallas, my shoulder still wrapped in bandages from the surgery, my whole life feeling like it had been put through a meat grinder. She'd wanted to come. She'd wanted to be there, to talk it through, to try one more time. I told her not to bother. Stupid. The whole thing was stupid. But I couldn't see past the pain back then. Couldn't see past the fear and the shame and the knowledge that the only thing I'd ever been good at was gone forever. Or so I thought. The night air was cool for September, carrying the smell of cut grass and cattle from somewhere nearby. I breathed it in deep and felt something shift in my chest. Oklahoma. Home. The place that made me and the place I'd abandoned. I got back in the truck and drove. The Tulsa Classic wasn't what it used to be, or maybe I wasn't what I used to be. Hard to tell the difference sometimes when you've been away so long that everything familiar feels strange. I showed up at the arena 3 days before the event to get my bearings. The place had been renovated since I'd last competed there. New chutes with better safety features. New lighting that turned the dirt into something almost golden. New seating that probably cost more than I'd made in my best year on the circuit. But underneath all the polish, it was still the same. Still smelled like dust and animal and something else I'd never been able to name. Fear, maybe, or hope, or that strange mixture of both that lives in the gut of every man who's ever climbed onto a bull and asked God to let him survive. Well, I'll be damned. I turned around to find Bobby Ray Hutchins walking toward me, with a grin splitting his weathered face. Bobby Ray had been announcing rodeos since before I was born. He had a voice like gravel and honey, the kind of voice that could make 8 seconds of chaos sound like poetry. He'd called my first professional ride back when I was 19 and too dumb to be scared. He'd called my championship win when I was 26, and on top of the world. And he'd called my last ride, the one where everything fell apart, with a catch in his voice that I could hear even through the ringing in my ears. Bobby Ray. I shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength that hadn't faded with age. Good to see you. Cody Mercer in the flesh. He looked me up and down with eyes that had seen everything this sport could do to a man. Heard you were making a comeback. Didn't believe it till now. Believe it. Son, you sure about this? His voice dropped, the showman fading into something more real, something worried. After what happened, I'm sure. Your shoulder is fine. Doctors say a lot of things. I met his gaze, held it. I know my body, Bobby Ray. I know what I can do. He studied me for a long moment. I could see him weighing something in his mind. Probably all the riders he'd known over the years who'd come back too soon, too broken, too desperate. The ones who'd left the arena on stretchers, the ones who'd never left at all. All right then, he finally said. Welcome back to the dirt. I spent the morning walking the arena, getting familiar with the layout, watching the crew set up the chutes, test the gates, spread fresh dirt across the floor, remembering what it felt like to be here, to be part of this world that existed outside of time, outside of normal life. Bull riding is the dumbest thing a man can do. I've heard that 1,000 times from doctors and ex-girlfriends and well-meaning relatives who couldn't understand why anyone would choose to climb onto 2,000 pounds of muscle and fury. Why anyone would wrap their hand in a rope and nod for that gate to open, knowing full well that the next 8 seconds might be their last. It's insane. It's beautiful. It's the only thing I've ever been truly good at. I was 19 when I won my first buckle at a nothing rodeo in West Texas. The purse was $500, and the bull was a half-crazy spinner named Widowmaker. I held on for 8 seconds and felt like I'd conquered the world. 26 when I became world champion, standing in the center of the arena in Vegas with confetti falling around me like colored snow. My shoulder was already starting to give me trouble by then. But I didn't care. I was immortal, invincible, the best in the world. 29 when it all came crashing down. When the bull named Hellhound spun me around and my hand got caught in the rope and my shoulder tore apart like wet paper. When I lay in the dirt listening to the crowd scream and wondering if I'd ever walk again, let alone ride. And 29 when I signed the divorce papers. When I drove away from Tulsa with nothing but a suitcase and a bottle of whiskey and the absolute certainty that I'd ruined everything worth having. Now I was back, older, damaged, desperate in ways I didn't like to admit even to myself. I was sitting in the stands, just looking at the empty arena, when I heard her voice. I heard a rumor you were in town. My heart stopped, actually stopped. I know that sounds like something people just say, like an exaggeration you throw around when you want to make a point. But I swear to God, my heart quit beating for a full second before it kicked back in twice as hard, pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I turned around, and there she was, Sarah Jane. She stood at the top of the aisle, arms crossed, wearing jeans and a simple white blouse that I remembered buying her for her birthday years ago. Her dark hair was longer than I remembered, falling past her shoulders in soft waves that caught the light. She was thinner, maybe, a little more tired around the eyes. But those eyes, God, those eyes, that deep brown that could cut right through any wall I tried to build, that could see past all my bullshit and straight into the broken mess underneath. Sarah. Her name came out rough, like sandpaper on wood. Like I'd forgotten how to say it and was learning all over again. Cody. She didn't move, neither did I. We just stood there, 15 feet and 5 years between us, the empty arena echoing with all the things we weren't saying. You look good. I finally said, because I couldn't think of anything else and because it was true. She always looked good. Even at our worst, even when she was screaming at me or crying or both, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Don't. Her voice was sharp, a knife cutting through the space between us. Don't do that. Do what? Act like this is normal. Act like you can just show up after 5 years and say, I look good and everything's fine. I wasn't trying to... You left. The words hit me like a fist to the gut. You signed the papers, you got in your truck, and you left. You didn't call. You didn't write. You didn't even have the decency to tell me where you were going. I know. Do you? Do you have any idea what that was like? Waking up every morning wondering if you were alive. Checking the obituaries because I didn't know if you'd driven off a cliff or drunk yourself to death or... Her voice broke. I watched her fight to control it, watched her hands clench at her sides, and I wanted nothing more than to close the distance between us and hold her. But I'd lost that right. I'd given it up the day I walked away. I know I hurt you, I said quietly. I know you destroyed me, Cody. She was crying now, tears tracking down her cheeks, and she made no move to wipe them away. I spent 3 years trying to make that marriage work, 3 years waiting for you to come home from the road, 3 years watching you choose bulls over me, over us, over everything we could have had. And then when you finally had to stop, when your body gave out and you couldn't ride anymore, you still chose to leave. You chose being nothing over being with me. The words hung in the air between us, and I didn't have a single defense. She was right. About all of it. I was broken, I said, and the admission felt like swallowing glass. Not just my shoulder. Everything. My whole life was built on riding, and when that was gone, I didn't know who I was anymore. I couldn't see past the pain and the fear and the knowledge that the only thing I was good at was over. I thought you deserved better than what I had left. That wasn't your choice to make. No, it wasn't. I took a step toward her. Just one. I was wrong. I was wrong about a lot of things. I've spent 5 years knowing that, Sarah. 5 years waking up every morning and reaching for you and finding nothing but empty space. Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe. Or something older than pain. And what? Now you're back to make it right? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just bitterness and exhaustion and 5 years of hurt. You're back to ride bulls again. Same as always. The arena comes first. It always did. That's not why I'm here. Then why? Why now, after all this time? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd loved since I was 22 years old, standing in a bar in Amarillo with dust in her hair and fire in her eyes. The woman I'd married under a Texas sky, with nothing but hope and promises and the foolish belief that love could conquer anything. The woman I'd failed in every way a man can fail. I came back because I had to know, I said. I had to know if there was anything left. Of me, of us, of any of it. I spent 5 years running, Sarah. Running from the pain. Running from the memories. Running from you. And somewhere along the way, I realized I was running from myself. She stared at me for a long moment. I could see her weighing my words, testing them for truth or deception. We'd been married long enough for her to know when I was lying. I hoped she could see that I wasn't. There is no us, Cody, she finally said. Not anymore. She turned and walked away. I watched her go, her footsteps echoing on the concrete steps, and I didn't chase her. What would be the point? She was right to hate me. I'd earned every bit of that hatred through years of absence and silence and cowardice. But I wasn't giving up. Not this time. I'd given up once, and it cost me everything that mattered. I wasn't making that mistake again. The next morning I went to the gym at 5 a.m. Started with stretches. working through the stiffness in my shoulder, the ache in my knees. Moved to weights, nothing too heavy, just enough to remind my muscles what they used to do. Finished with cardio on the stationary bike. Couldn't run anymore, not with my knee, pushing until my lungs burned and my shirt was soaked through with sweat. My shoulder screamed through most of it, that deep, grinding pain that never really goes away, no matter how many pills you take or exercises you do. The doctors had warned me about this. They'd said the joint would never be the same, that I'd be fighting against my own body for the rest of my life, but I'd fought worse. And I was still standing. After the gym, I grabbed breakfast at a diner near the fairgrounds, the kind of place with sticky vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting on the burner since last Tuesday. The food was good, though. Eggs and bacon and hash browns swimming in grease. The kind of meal that sticks to your ribs and keeps you going. I was halfway through when a shadow fell across my table. Mind if I sit? I looked up to find a kid standing there. Couldn't have been more than 22, 23. Dark hair sticking out from under a PBR cap, eager eyes that hadn't learned yet how much this sport could hurt. He was lanky but strong, the kind of build that comes from ranch work and determination. Free country. He slid into the booth across from me, nervous energy radiating off him like heat from a fire. "You're Cody Mercer, last time I checked." "Man, I grew up watching you ride." His words came out in a rush, tumbling over each other like they couldn't wait to get out. "That championship run in 17? That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The way you rode Bushwhacker in the final round with that messed up shoulder. Legend. Pure legend." I sipped my coffee, feeling the familiar mix of pride and pain that came with any mention of that ride. That was a long time ago. Still legendary. He stuck out his hand across the table. "I'm Travis Dawson. I'm riding in the Classic this weekend, too." I shook his hand, felt the calluses on his palm. Ranch kid, like I'd guessed. "Good to meet you, Travis. Can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Why'd you quit? After the surgery, I mean." "They said you could come back. Everyone thought you would. There were articles about it, speculation, betting odds even, and then you just disappeared." I set down my coffee cup and looked at this kid, this young man with all the hope and fire I used to have. How do you explain to someone like that what it's like to lose the only thing that gives your life meaning? How do you explain the fear that comes with knowing your body might betray you at any moment? How do you explain walking away from everything because staying hurt too much? "Some falls you don't get up from," I said finally. "At least, not right away. Sometimes it takes years to find your feet again." He nodded slowly, like he understood something he couldn't put into words yet. He would, eventually. This sport has a way of teaching you things you'd rather not learn. It breaks you down and builds you back up, and if you're lucky, really lucky, you come out the other side stronger than before. "Well, for what it's worth," Travis said, "I'm glad you're back. Lot of us younger guys, we need to see that you can come back from anything, that it's never really over until you decide it is." "I haven't come back from anything yet, kid. Ask me again after Saturday night." He grinned, the kind of grin that hasn't learned to be afraid yet. "Deal." He left me to my breakfast, and I sat there thinking about what he'd said, that you can come back from anything. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe it more than I'd ever wanted to believe anything in my whole damn life. But some things, once you break them, stay broken. And I wasn't sure yet which category I fell into. I spent the rest of the week training, getting my body ready, getting my mind right. The physical part was hard enough. My shoulder would never be what it was. And I'd lost a step in my reflexes that 5 years away from competition had only made worse. But the mental part was harder. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fall. The one that ended my career. The bull twisting beneath me, my hand caught in the rope, my body whipping around like a rag doll in the jaws of some giant beast. The sound my shoulder made when it separated, a wet, grinding pop that I still hear in my nightmares. The screaming. Mine, I think, though I don't remember much of it. Just the pain and the dirt and the absolute certainty that everything was over. And then the months that followed. The surgery, the physical therapy, the slow, agonizing realization that I might never ride again. And Sarah, standing by my bed in that hospital room, holding my hand, telling me it would be okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. And instead of letting her help me, I pushed her away. I signed the divorce papers because I thought I was setting her free. I drove away in the middle of the night because I couldn't stand to see the pity in her eyes. Stupid. The whole damn thing was stupid. And now here I was, 5 years later, trying to fix what I'd broken with nothing but determination and the desperate hope that she might give me one more chance. I ran into her again on Thursday afternoon. She was coming out of the arena office, probably handling some administrative stuff. She'd always been good at that, organizing things, making sure everything ran smooth. That's how we'd met, actually. She was working the circuit as an event coordinator, and I was just another cowboy trying to make a name. "Hey there," I'd said, leaning against the wall like I owned the place. "You must be the prettiest thing in this whole county." She'd looked at me with those brown eyes and said, "I must be the only thing in this county dumb enough to talk to a bull rider." I knew right then I was going to marry her. Took me 2 years to convince her of the same thing. "Sarah?" She stopped, but didn't turn around. Her shoulders tensed, and I could see her taking a breath, steeling herself. "I know you don't want to talk to me," I said, "but I need you to know something." "Cody, I can't do this. Not here. Not now." "Then just listen." I walked around to face her, close enough to see the weariness in her eyes, the tension in her jaw. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm just asking you to let me prove that I've changed." "Changed?" She laughed, and there was a bitterness in it that cut like a knife. "You're doing the exact same thing you always did. Riding bulls, chasing buckles. The arena comes first. It always has, and it always will." "That's not true. Isn't it? Then why are you here, Cody? Why now, after 5 years of silence?" "Because I finally realized what I lost." I held her gaze, willing her to see the truth in my eyes. It wasn't the championship. It wasn't the career. It wasn't any of that. It was you. You were everything, Sarah. You were the best part of my life, the only thing that made any of it worthwhile. And I threw it away because I was too scared and too proud to admit that I needed you more than I needed any of this. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened with tears she was fighting to hold back. "Pretty words. I mean them. You meant them when you said your vows, too. For better or worse. Remember that? Remember standing in that church and promising to stand by me through anything?" "Every day," I said. "Every single day." Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe, or anger, or something else I couldn't name. Something that looked almost like hope, buried under years of hurt. "I have to go," she said. "Sarah, I'm seeing someone." The words hit me like a bull to the chest. I actually took a step back, the air leaving my lungs in a rush, the world tilting sideways for a moment before it righted itself. "What?" "His name is Daniel. He's an accountant. We've been together for 8 months. She lifted her chin, defiant, like she was daring me to say something. "He's kind. He's stable. He comes home every night." I couldn't speak, couldn't think. 8 months. She'd been building a new life while I'd been stuck in the past, dreaming about a woman who'd already moved on. "I'm happy for you," I finally managed, though the words tasted like ash in my mouth. "Don't lie to me, Cody. You've never been good at it." She walked away. Again. And this time, I let her go. That night, I sat in my motel room and stared at the wall. The wallpaper was peeling in the corners, and there was a water stain on the ceiling that looked like Texas if you squinted right. The air conditioner rattled and groaned, barely pushing the heat back. I thought about packing up the truck and driving away. Again. Just disappearing into the nothing like I'd done before. Find some other town, some other arena, some other place where nobody knew my name or my failures, but I didn't. Something kept me there, something stubborn and stupid and desperate. Because here's the thing about falling off a bull. Sometimes the fall doesn't kill you, but the getting back up does. Sometimes you lie there in the dirt and you think about how easy it would be to just stay down. To let the pain win, to give up. But that's not who I am. That's never been who I am. I've been getting up from falls my whole life, and I wasn't about to stop now. Daniel, an accountant. 8 months. Kind, stable. Comes home every night. I grabbed my phone, called the one person who might understand. Hello? Bobby Ray's voice was rough with sleep. Hey, Bobby Ray, it's Cody. Son, it's 11 o'clock at night. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I rubbed my face with my free hand, feeling the stubble that I'd forgotten to shave. I need to ask you something. About Sarah. There was a long pause. I could hear him shifting around, probably sitting up in bed. What about her? This guy she's seeing, Daniel. What do you know about him? Another pause, longer this time. Cody, I'm going to give you some advice you probably don't want to hear. Let her go. She's moved on. You should too. I can't. You can. You just don't want to. It's not that simple, Bobby Ray. It never is. He sighed, and I could hear decades of experience in that sound. All the cowboys he'd known who'd chased the wrong things. All the ones who'd lost themselves in regret. Look, I've known you since you were 19 years old. I've seen you ride bulls that should have killed you. I've seen you come back from injuries that would have ended most careers. But this isn't something you can cowboy up and push through. Love doesn't work that way. I have to try. Why? What's left to try for? She's with someone else. She told you herself. Because when I look at my life, I said slowly, the words coming from somewhere deep. When I look at everything I've done and everything I've lost, she's the only thing that still matters. The buckles don't matter. The championship doesn't matter. None of it means a damn thing without her. Bobby Ray was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You know what your problem is, Cody. You always did things the hard way. Even when there was an easy path right in front of you, you had to go and make it difficult. Yeah, well, that's rodeo. He laughed, but it was sad. That's rodeo. Get some sleep, son. You've got bulls to ride. I hung up and lay back on the bed, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. 8 months. She'd been happy for 8 months without me, building a life, finding someone who could give her what I never could. Maybe Bobby Ray was right. Maybe I should let her go. But I couldn't. God help me. I couldn't. Friday was the first day of competition. The arena was packed, the energy electric. Thousands of people filling the seats, the smell of popcorn and beer and animal sweat thick in the air. The sounds of an announcer warming up the crowd, of bulls bellowing in the back pens, of cowboys talking trash and psyching themselves up. I stood behind the chutes, watching the younger riders warm up, feeling the old, familiar mixture of fear and excitement churning in my gut. It never goes away, that feeling. Doesn't matter how many times you do this. The fear is always there, sitting right next to the thrill, two sides of the same coin. You ready for this? I turned to find Travis Dawson standing beside me, his face pale beneath his hat. His hands were shaking slightly, and I recognized the look in his eyes. First-time jitters in a big arena. Ask me in 8 seconds, I said. He managed a nervous laugh. I've never ridden in front of a crowd this big before. Back home in Childress, we're lucky to get a couple hundred people. This is something else. You'll be fine. Just focus on the bull. Everything else, the crowd, the lights, all of it. It disappears once that gate opens. It's just you and the animal. 8 seconds of pure focus. He nodded, swallowing hard. Thanks. For the advice, I mean, and for talking to me the other day. Some of the older guys, they won't give you the time of day unless you've already made a name for yourself. Everybody starts somewhere, kid. I was you once. Hard to believe. Believe it. I watched him walk off toward his gear bag, and I thought about myself at that age. So confident, so sure that nothing could touch me. That the world was just waiting for me to conquer it. I hadn't known then what I know now. That the arena has a way of teaching you humility, one broken bone at a time. The first night went about as well as I'd hoped. I drew a bull named Hellfire, a spinner with a reputation for hard falls and harder attitudes. He'd bucked off more cowboys than I could count, left a trail of broken bones and bruised egos across 3 states. Perfect, I thought. Start with something easy. The chute was chaos. Cowboys everywhere, dust in the air, the smell of rosin and leather and sweat. I climbed over the rails and settled onto Hellfire's back, feeling the heat of him, the tension in his muscles. He knew what was coming. 2,000 pounds of pure fury, just waiting for that gate to open. I wrapped my hand in the rope, adjusted my grip, said a quick prayer to whoever might be listening. Then I nodded. The gate swung open, and Hellfire exploded into the arena like a bomb going off, spinning left, then right, trying to throw me off balance. I held on, my riding hand burning, my free arm fighting for balance. 3 seconds. 4. 5. He changed direction, a hard spin that whipped my body around. I felt my shoulder protest, felt the old injury threatening to give way. But I held on. Held on, because I didn't know how to do anything else. 6. 7. 8. The buzzer sounded. I threw myself free, hit the dirt hard, and rolled to my feet just as the bullfighters moved in to distract Hellfire. The big animal snorted and trotted off toward the exit chute, satisfied with his work. 84 points. Not bad for a guy who hadn't competed in 5 years. I walked out of the arena on shaky legs, my heart pounding, my whole body singing with that feeling you only get from cheating death. This is what I'd missed. This is what I'd been chasing all those years on the road, all those nights in crappy motel rooms, all those mornings waking up with aching bones and no idea where I was. The pure, undeniable aliveness of surviving something that should have killed you. But it wasn't the ride that stayed with me that night. It was what I saw afterward. I was walking through the parking lot, still buzzing with adrenaline, when I spotted Sarah across the way. She was standing with a man, tall, clean-cut, wearing khakis and a button-down shirt like he'd just come from an office. Daniel, I assumed, the accountant. He had his arm around her waist, proprietary, comfortable, like he belonged there. I stopped, watched them talk, watched her laugh at something he said, her head tipping back, her hair catching the light from the parking lot lamps. Watched her lean into him in a way she used to lean into me, back when I was the one who got to hold her. Then she looked up. Our eyes met across the distance, and for one moment, everything else fell away. The crowd, the noise, the man standing beside her with his arm around her waist. It was just us, like it had always been. Just Cody and Sarah, 2 people who'd loved each other once upon a time. She looked away first. I turned and walked to my truck, got in. Sat there in the dark for a long time, my hands gripping the steering wheel hard enough to turn my knuckles white. 8 months, kind, stable. Comes home every night. I started the engine and drove back to the motel. Saturday was the semi-finals. The pressure ratcheted up. The bulls got meaner. The stakes got higher. And I was running on about 3 hours of sleep, a whole lot of coffee, and the kind of determination that borders on stupidity. I drew a bull named Bone Crusher. Appropriate, I thought. The way my luck was going, he'd probably live up to the name. The chute was packed. Cowboys everywhere, most of them younger than me, all of them hungry for that spot in the finals. I climbed over the rails and settled onto Bone Crusher's back, feeling the massive power of him beneath me. He was bigger than Hellfire, heavier, stronger, meaner. "You got this, Mercer." I looked up to see one of the stock handlers giving me a nod. Hank Martinez. I'd ridden for his outfit years ago, back before everything fell apart. Good man. Fair. Didn't bullshit you about the animals. "We'll see," I said. I wrapped my hand in the rope, felt the rosin sticky against my palm, adjusted my grip once, twice. Then I nodded. The gate swung open. Bone Crusher exploded out of the chute like he'd been shot from a cannon. This wasn't a spinner. This was a bucker. Pure vertical power trying to throw me straight up into the lights. He dropped his front end, then kicked his back leg so high I thought he might flip over completely. I held on. 3 seconds. 4. 5. He changed direction. A hard spin that caught me off guard. I felt my balance shift, felt myself starting to slip. My shoulder screamed, that grinding, tearing pain that never really goes away. 6 seconds. 7. He dropped again. Kicked. Spun. Everything became a blur of dust and motion and survival. 8 seconds. The buzzer sounded. I threw myself free, hit the dirt, and somehow landed on my feet. The crowd erupted. I could hear Bobby Ray's voice over the speakers, shouting something about a comeback for the ages, but I barely registered it. 87 points. My best ride in 5 years. I walked out of the arena on legs that felt like jelly, my heart threatening to pound right out of my chest. The bullfighters patted me on the back as I passed. Other cowboys nodded their respect. Travis Dawson was waiting by the exit, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "That was incredible," he said. "Bone Crusher hasn't been ridden in 6 events. 6 events. And you just made him look easy." "Nothing about that was easy, kid." "Still, legend." I managed a smile. "How'd you do?" His grin faded a little. "Bucked off at 5 seconds, but I'm still in it. Just barely." "That's all you need. A chance." I was heading toward the locker room when I heard her voice behind me. "Cody." I turned, and there she was. Sarah. She was alone this time, her arms wrapped around herself like she was cold, despite the warm September night. "That was incredible," she said, and there was something in her voice I hadn't heard before. Something that sounded almost like the old days, like maybe she'd forgotten to be angry for a moment. "Thanks." I forgot. Her voice was soft, almost wondering. I forgot what it was like to watch you ride. The adrenaline or the terror? Both. She managed a small smile. "You always did walk that line, between glory and disaster." Story of my life. We stood there in the corridor behind the chutes, the sounds of the arena muffled by the concrete walls. She looked different than she had the other times I'd seen her this week. Less guarded, more like the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "Where's Daniel?" I asked, immediately regretting it. Her expression shuttered slightly. "He couldn't make it tonight. Work." "On a Saturday?" "He's busy. He's always—" She stopped, shook her head. "It doesn't matter." "Sarah, don't." She held up a hand. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you know something I don't." I took a step toward her, close enough to see the uncertainty in her eyes, close enough to smell her perfume. Something floral and soft. The same one she'd worn when we were married. The same one that used to cling to my shirts after she hugged me. "I don't know anything," I said. But I've spent enough years lying to myself to recognize it in someone else. I'm not lying. Then what would you call it? She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. He's kind, Cody. He's safe. He doesn't make me worry every night that I'm going to get a phone call saying he's dead in some arena somewhere. He doesn't disappear for weeks at a time, chasing something he can never quite catch. But there is no but. There's always a but, Sarah. She looked at me, really looked for the first time since I'd come back. And I saw it then. The truth she'd been hiding. Maybe even from herself. He doesn't make me feel anything, she said, the words coming out like they hurt. Not the way you did, not the highs, not the lows, not any of it. It's just flat, easy, comfortable, like wearing a pair of old shoes that don't quite fit anymore. That doesn't sound like happiness. Maybe happiness is overrated. Her voice was barely a whisper now, fragile as glass. Maybe safe is enough. I reached out and touched her face, just barely, just enough to feel the warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips. She didn't pull away. You deserve more than enough, Sarah. You always did. You deserve someone who makes you feel alive, someone who challenges you, someone who loves you so much it scares them both. And that's you. There was a challenge in her voice, but also something else. Hope, maybe, or fear. The man who walked away, who chose the arena over everything we built. I was wrong. I know that now. I've spent 5 years knowing it, Sarah. 5 years wishing I could go back and do it different. Choose you. Choose us. Choose the life we could have had instead of the one I thought I needed. She closed her eyes. For one moment I thought she might lean into me, might let herself remember what we had, what we could have again if she'd just give me the chance. Then she stepped back. I have to go. Sarah. Good luck tomorrow, Cody. In the finals. She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing on the concrete, leaving me standing there with my hands still raised, reaching for something I couldn't quite grasp. Sunday night. Finals. The whole season came down to this. I hadn't slept, couldn't eat. My shoulder was throbbing, and my head was full of Sarah and Daniel and everything I'd thrown away. The motel coffee tasted like battery acid, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. But when I walked into that arena, none of it mattered. The crowd was electric. The energy was something you could feel in your bones. This is what we lived for, all of us, every cowboy who'd ever been stupid enough to climb onto a bull. This moment, this chance. I drew Reaper's hand. The name alone was enough to make most cowboys think twice. He was a legend in the worst possible way, a bull with a reputation for ending careers. Fast, mean, smart. He'd put more cowboys in the hospital than any other animal on the circuit, and he seemed to enjoy doing it. Perfect, I thought. Perfect way to end this. I was standing behind the chutes, trying to get my head right, when Travis Dawson appeared beside me. He looked nervous, but there was something else there too. Something that looked like confidence. I made it, he said, grinning. Finals. Can you believe it? You earned it, kid. Barely. His grin faded a little. I drew Widowmaker. He's not as bad as Reaper's hand, but he'll kill you if you let him. Yeah. I put a hand on his shoulder. Listen to me. When that gate opens, you forget about everything else. The crowd, the score, the bulls you've ridden before and the ones you haven't. There's just you and the animal. 8 seconds of pure focus. You understand? He nodded. Yes, sir. And Travis? Yeah? Don't call me sir. Makes me feel old. He laughed, some of the tension draining from his face. Good luck out there, Cody. You too, kid. The arena was packed. Bobby Ray's voice boomed over the speakers, building the anticipation, telling stories about the riders and the bulls. I barely heard any of it. I was focused on one thing, the chute in front of me and the animal inside it. Reaper's hand was already agitated, slamming against the rails, snorting and stomping. 2,000 pounds of muscle and fury, just waiting for his chance to destroy me. I climbed into the chute, settled onto his back, felt the heat of him, the power, the barely contained violence. This was different from the other bulls I'd ridden this weekend. This was personal, like he knew who I was and what I was trying to prove. I wrapped my hand in the rope, adjusted my grip, said a prayer. Then I looked up, and there she was, Sarah, standing at the rail, right where she could see the chutes. Her face was pale, her hands gripping the fence so hard her knuckles were white. Daniel wasn't with her. She was alone. Our eyes met. I want to tell you that I saw love in her eyes, that I saw hope, that I saw everything I'd been dreaming about for 5 years. But the truth is, I saw fear, pure, naked fear. The same fear she must have felt every time I'd climbed onto a bull during our marriage. The same fear that had eaten away at her day after day, night after night, until she couldn't take it anymore. And in that moment, I understood something I'd been too stubborn to see before. It wasn't about the arena. It wasn't about proving I could still ride. It wasn't about the buckles or the glory or any of the things I'd chased my whole life. It was about her. It had always been about her. You ready, Cowboy? The chute boss was looking at me, waiting. I looked at Sarah one more time. Tried to tell her with my eyes what I couldn't say with words. That I was sorry. That I loved her. That whatever happened in the next 8 seconds, she was the only thing that mattered. Then I looked at Reaper's hand, 2,000 pounds of death waiting to be unleashed. And I made a choice. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. I nodded. The gate opened. Reaper's hand came out of the chute like the devil himself, spinning so fast the world became a blur of lights and dirt and sound. This wasn't like the other bulls. This was something else entirely. Pure malevolence in animal form. I held on. My shoulder screamed. My whole body screamed. But I held on. 3 seconds. 4. 5. He dropped his front end so hard I felt my spine compress, then kicked his back legs toward the sky, trying to throw me into orbit. 6 seconds. He changed direction. A spin so fast I couldn't track it. My hand was slipping. My balance was gone. 7 seconds. Everything went sideways. I felt myself coming loose, felt the rope sliding through my fingers. The buzzer sounded. 8 seconds. But it was too late. My hand was already free, and I was falling through the air, watching the light spin overhead, knowing what was coming. I hit the dirt hard, harder than I'd ever hit in my life. Heard something pop in my shoulder, the same shoulder that had ended my career before, and the world went white with pain. I was vaguely aware of the bullfighters moving in, drawing Reaper's hand away. Vaguely aware of the crowd going silent, then erupting into chaos. Vaguely aware of Bobby Ray's voice, tight with worry, saying something about medical attention. But the only thing I could focus on was Sarah. She was there, pushing through the gate, running across the dirt in her nice clothes, falling to her knees beside me with tears streaming down her face. Cody. Cody, talk to me. Hey. My voice came out as a croak. You're gonna ruin those jeans. You idiot! She was crying and laughing at the same time. You stupid, stubborn, reckless idiot. I know. I was so scared when I saw you fall. She couldn't finish the sentence, just shook her head, tears falling onto my chest. The paramedics were trying to work around her, trying to check my shoulder, but she wouldn't move. She held my hand, my good hand, and refused to let go. I made the 8 seconds, I said. Right? I don't care about the 8 seconds. Sarah, I don't care. She was almost shouting now, her voice ragged with emotion. I don't care about the ride or the score or any of it. I care about you. I've always cared about you, even when I was trying so hard not to. I looked up at her through the haze of pain and adrenaline, and something else I couldn't name. What about Daniel? She shook her head. Tears were still falling, cutting tracks through the dust on her cheeks. I ended it, last night, after I saw you ride. Why? Because when I watched you on that bull, I realized something. I've been so scared of losing you again that I convinced myself I didn't want you. That safe was better than alive. That comfortable was enough. She wiped her face with her free hand. But it's not enough, Cody. It's not even close. The paramedics finally managed to get a brace around my shoulder and get me onto a stretcher. The pain was bad, real bad, but I barely noticed. All I could see was her face. Her beautiful, tear-stained face. Come with me, I said, to the hospital. She squeezed my hand. I'm not going anywhere. Not this time. She held my hand the whole way. The shoulder was dislocated, not broken. Small mercy. The doctors said I'd need surgery eventually. The damage from before had been aggravated. Some of the tissue was torn. The whole joint was a mess. But it wasn't career-ending. Not that I was sure I wanted a career anymore. Sarah stayed with me through the night. She sat in the plastic hospital chair beside my bed, her hand in mine, and we talked. Really talked. For the first time in 5 years. I told her everything. The years on the road after I left. The emptiness that followed me from town to town, like a shadow. The drinking that got too heavy before I pulled myself back from the edge. The nights I'd spent staring at my phone, wanting to call her, but not knowing what to say after everything I'd done. She told me about the divorce, how she'd felt when I left, the betrayal, the anger, the grief, the therapy she'd gone through to piece herself back together, the day she finally stopped checking the obituaries, the way she'd convinced herself that safe was better than happy, that it was better to feel nothing than to risk feeling everything again. I was wrong, she said softly. I thought I could replace what we had with something easier. But there is no easy. Not when it comes to love. Not when it comes to you. I should have stayed, I said. 5 years ago. I should have stayed and fought for us. We both made mistakes. She squeezed my hand. The question is what we do now. I don't know. I turned my head to look at her, really look at her, in the harsh fluorescent light of the hospital room. But I know I don't want to spend another 5 years without you. What about riding? The circuit? I thought about it. Thought about the bulls, the buckles, the 8 seconds of pure chaos that had defined my whole life. I'm done, I said, and I meant it. I came back to prove something. To myself, to you, to everyone who said I was finished, and I proved it. But it's not worth losing you again. You'd give it up? Just like that. I'd give up anything for you, Sarah. I should have known that 5 years ago. I was just too scared and too proud to admit it. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against mine, her breath warm on my face. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Not for one single day, even when I wanted to, even when I tried. Neither did I. Then let's try again. Really try. Not the way we did before, where you were gone all the time and I was waiting. Something different, something real, something that puts us first. I'd like that more than anything. She kissed me then, soft and sweet, tasting like coffee and tears. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about us was perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, real is all you need. 3 months later, we got married again. Not a big ceremony, just us and a handful of friends in a little white church outside Tulsa. The same church where her grandmother had gotten married 60 years before. The same church where sunlight came through the stained glass windows and painted everything in colors you couldn't find anywhere else. Bobby Ray officiated, because of course he did. The man had been part of my life for 15 years. Seemed only right he'd be part of this too. He wore a bolo tie and boots and cried when he read the vows. Travis Dawson was my best man, because that kid had become like a little brother to me in the months since the Classic. He was still riding, still chasing his dreams, and I'd made it my mission to help him any way I could, pass on what I'd learned, keep him from making the same mistakes I'd made. Sarah wore a simple white dress that she'd found at a vintage shop in downtown Tulsa. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just beautiful, like her. I wore a clean shirt and my old championship buckle because some things you don't throw away no matter how much they hurt. That buckle had been part of me for almost a decade. It was time it became part of something new. We wrote our own vows this time. "I promise," I said, holding her hands in mine, feeling the warmth of her skin. "To choose you, every day, over the arena, over the road, over my own stupid pride. You're my home, Sarah. You always were. I was just too dumb and too scared to see it. But I see it now, and I'm never going to forget it again." She laughed through her tears. "I promise to stop running from what scares me, to stop choosing safe over alive, to believe that loving you, really loving you with everything I have, is worth all the fear and the worry and the uncertainty, because it is. You're worth it. We're worth it." We kissed while the handful of guests cheered, and for the first time in years, I felt like everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Epilogue. 15 years later. The arena smells the same as it always did. Dirt and sweat and something primal I've never been able to name. But I'm not here to ride. Those days are long behind me now, part of a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. I'm here to watch. My son climbs into the chute, adjusting his grip on the bull rope. Jake Mercer, 15 years old, already showing signs of the talent that I thought had died with my career. His grandmother, my mama, always said it would come back around eventually. She was right. Sarah sits beside me in the stands, her hand in mine, her eyes fixed on the chute where our boy is settling onto a bull named Thunderstrike. She's older now, we both are, but she's still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. "He's got your form," she says, squeezing my hand. "He's got your stubbornness." She laughs. That's fair. Our daughter, Emma, sits on my other side, pretending to be bored but actually fascinated. She's 13 and more interested in horses than bulls, though she won't admit it. Says rodeo is barbaric. Says she wants to be a veterinarian. I tell her that's fine. I tell her she can be whatever she wants, as long as she's happy. "He's gonna fall," she says, watching her brother with the kind of critical eye only a younger sibling can have. "That bull is huge." "Maybe," I say. "But he'll get back up. That's what Mercers do." The gate opens. 8 seconds later, my son is standing in the dirt, grinning, arms raised in triumph. He scored 82 points. Not bad for a kid. Not bad at all. Sarah cheers. Emma screams. So much for being bored. I just smile, feeling something warm spread through my chest. Pride, love, gratitude, all the things I almost threw away. Because this is what it's all about. Not the buckles, not the glory, not the 8 seconds of chaos that used to define my whole existence. Family, love, the people who stay. I turned my back on that once. Thought I knew better. Thought the arena was all that mattered. It took me 5 years to find my way home. But I made it, and I'm never leaving again. 50 years later, I'm 84 years old now, and my body remembers every bull I ever rode. My shoulder aches when it rains. My knees protest every staircase. My hands shake in the mornings, and sometimes it takes me a minute to remember what day it is. But I remember her. Always. Sarah passed 3 years ago, peacefully, in her sleep, with me holding her hand just like she'd held mine in that hospital room all those years ago. I miss her every day, every single day, but I don't regret a moment of the life we built together, the children we raised, the grandchildren who carry our names and our stubborn streak, The love that started in a dusty bar in Amarillo and lasted more than 60 years. My grandson reads to me sometimes. Jake's boy, Marcus. He's 23 and just got accepted to medical school. Smart kid. Going places. "Tell me about Grandma again," he says, and I can hear the curiosity in his voice. He never knew her the way I did. Never saw her laugh or cry or stand up to me when I was being stubborn. So I tell him. I tell him about the woman who saved my life. Not once, but twice. The woman who taught me that glory isn't found in arenas or on scoreboards, but in the quiet moments with the people you love. The woman who gave me everything and asked for nothing in return except my heart. "She sounds amazing," Marcus says when I'm done. She was. I close my eyes and for a moment I can see her, young, beautiful, standing at the top of those arena steps with fire in her eyes. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. 100 years from now. The old arena in Tulsa is a museum now. They've preserved the chutes, the gates, even some of the original dirt. Holographic displays show famous rides from the past, legends whose names have become part of cowboy mythology. One of those displays features a rider named Cody Mercer, World Champion 2017, Comeback Story 2024, the man who walked away from glory and found something better. His great-great-granddaughter works at the museum. Her name is Sarah, named after a woman she's only known through stories and photographs. She tells visitors about him sometimes, how he gave up everything for love, how he rebuilt his life from the ground up, how his family has been part of the rodeo community for generations. "Was he happy?" a child asks her once, looking up at the faded photographs on the wall. "In the end?" She smiles, thinking of the stories passed down through the family, the love letters her great-great-grandmother had kept in a cedar box, the championship buckle that still sits on the mantel of her parents' house, the legacy of a man who learned, the hard way, what really matters. "Yeah," she says. "I think he was." Outside, the Oklahoma wind blows across the plains, carrying the smell of dust and grass and possibility. The same wind that's blown for centuries. The same wind that will blow for centuries more. Some things change. Bulls get meaner. Arenas get bigger. Champions rise and fall and are forgotten. But some things stay the same. Love, family, the stubborn belief that we can always get back up. That's the real glory. Not the dirt, not the 8 seconds, not the championship buckle or the roar of the crowd or any of it. The getting back up, the choosing to love, the coming home. Always the coming home. Hey, thanks for riding along with me on this one. If this story hit you somewhere, maybe reminded you of someone, maybe reminded you of yourself, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from. Tell me if you've ever known someone like Cody, or maybe you are someone like him. And if you want more stories like this, well, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. We got a lot more dirt and glory coming your way. See you down the road.